episode of How to Run a Successful Business and Still Have a Life. My name is Stacey Morgan, and today's episode is brought to you by Simply Business Accelerator. In November, we're going to be talking all things community and culture, team culture in your business, how your team's getting along. And if you would like to join us and perhaps get upskilled in terms of your leadership and management, then you can do that by enrolling now at simplystacymorgan.com. In November, we're holding two sessions on the 5th and on the 12th. We have two sessions. They're both 3-hour coaching sessions, and that's all part of Simply Business Accelerator. Simply Business Accelerator covers 8 different pillars, and we do 2 at a time. And so in November, we're talking community and culture. I'd love you to join us. And today we're going to be talking about feedback and giving feedback to your team. So if you have a problem with your team culture, then it could be because there's not enough feedback being given. You know, so often in business, we will give the good stuff, we'll give the good feedback, and we will avoid having the difficult conversations and giving the hard feedback because we don't want to upset people. And we say, oh, Joe's such a nice guy, we don't want to upset him. But what ends up happening is poor Joe's going along doing his job and not doing a very good job of it. And so we say, good job, Joe, good job, Joe, good job, Joe, avoiding saying anything bad. And then we say, you're fired, Joe, because he's done the bad thing so many times, but no one's ever told him. Poor Joe. I don't want a Joe in my business. I hope you don't want a Joe in your business either. And so giving feedback is so incredibly important in business, not just the good stuff, but the bad stuff as well. And the easiest way to get into the habit of doing of giving constructive feedback is by doing it regularly. And so for me, that was the way that I started. I was so terrible at having, conversations that were prickly in the early days of my business. I would just avoid it completely. And what ended up happening was the issues would just get bigger and bigger, and then they would blow up, and then it wasn't fun for anybody involved whatsoever. But what I have learned is that with some systems and processes in place that everybody understands, so the managers and also so every member of the leadership team, but also a member of the team really understands the process, then it becomes a whole lot less daunting. And so for us in our business, that started with performance reviews and setting regular performance reviews. Because what was happening before we had any regularity to it was that, we wouldn't have a conversation about performance, about conduct or performance, unless something went wrong. And then we'd have to have a difficult conversation. And then it was a difficult conversation because whenever anyone got called to a meeting, they immediately knew that something was wrong because something was wrong. We never met for good stuff. So that's how I started, putting together regular performance reviews and regular sit down and regular catch-ups. I call them catch-ups because that is less formal than performance review, but that's exactly what they are. They're a performance review. So having regular catch-ups, and we do that every quarter in our business. And we do it no matter what. We do it whether we've got good news, whether we've got bad news, whether we've got everything in between. We will catch up with our team one-on-one. And that is a really important process that is now part of our business, because not only does it give you as the manager and the leader of the business the opportunity to bring up the good stuff and bring up the bad stuff and the stuff that is challenging and the stuff that needs improving, it also gives your people the opportunity for them to bring stuff up with you, because often they will have stuff to say, they will have feedback, they will have things that they are unhappy about or things that they're really happy about that they'll need to let you know. But with no formalized process on when and where to do that, they end up giving you this information in the bread aisle in Coles, and then you end up feeling like you've been hit by a bus because it completely took you by surprise. So setting up regular performance reviews for your team is like number one, is a no-brainer, is super easy. And as I said, you can call them whatever you like, whatever makes you feel more comfortable. We call ours catch-ups, and that's exactly what they are. And they're booked in 20-minute increments so that everybody doesn't feel like they need to, go out for a whole lunch and be grilled by their boss for 2 hours. It also doesn't feel like it's, a 5-minute, how are you? Good. How am I? Good. Bye. Like there is time to unpack stuff and there is time to go into stuff. And of course, quite often we will get into a conversation as part of those performance reviews that then needs further discussion or that needs thought. And so the 20-minute time limits, that we set around that just means that people get to get off their chest exactly what's going on. And then everybody gets a moment to breathe. So you say, this is really important and I want to discuss this with you further. So how about we make a time tomorrow, or a time on Monday, or a time when you're next in the office, and we can nut it out then. And that gives both parties the opportunity to step away and to have a clear mind and to have a think and some time to process. So many personalities really need that time, that processing time. They're not good on the spot. They're not good when they're in threat state, when they're shocked. So it's really important to have that breathing space. And so that's why we put a 20-minute limit around our performance reviews. And of course, if things are really heated and everybody's kind of, in the throw of the moment, we're not going to say, oh, ding, 20 minutes, out you go. But it just sets the expectation really clearly on both parties that this is going to be a process that's going to take 20 minutes, and we're going to sit together, and some bits are going to be easy and some bits are going to be hard, and that's okay. Because at the end of it, what you want is for both parties to have the opportunity to be able to say what's on their mind and to come up with solutions in order to make things better for everybody. And so all of that is easier said than done. And it starts off with that scheduling. And it's so important that it is something that is done quite often and is something that is done regularly. Otherwise, things just tend to get away from you, and you tend to just want to have the good conversations instead of always having the constructive conversations as well. And of course, when things are uncomfortable, that's when we grow. We need to know when we're doing things well. Your team needs to know when they're doing things well, and they need to also know when they're not doing things well in order to improve, not just for the benefit of the business, but for the benefit of their own personal growth as well. And as their manager and as their leader, you're doing them a disservice by not giving them the information they need, by not giving them all of the tools in order to improve in the role that they're in. People who are not improving and growing in the role they're in are not going to stay in that role for very long. So you want to make sure that you're always giving the support where you can and giving that feedback in order to be able to have the opportunity to say, how can I support you better? How can I help you? Do you need more resources? Do you need more education? Is there more learning we can do around this? And then it turns into a learning opportunity rather than, just a difficult conversation. And as a manager, that's a really, really important part of your role. It's really important as well for your team to understand that you're on their side. And, that comes as part of culture, that they need to understand that for the benefit of the business and the benefit of the team overall, and for their own personal growth and development, you are invested in that. You want them to be better for themselves as well as for the company. And, when you're giving feedback in those settings, it's really, 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 really important that they understand that you're on their team and that you're not against them. So being able to give that feedback and to remind them that, hey, I really want to see you succeed. I really want to see you, be able to take this opportunity and to be able to run with it. How can I help you and how can I best support you in order for you to succeed, in order for you to do it better? That is really, really important. It's also important to, in these conversations, throw it back to them. Please help me understand. Brené Brown says all the time, say more. When you get into the conversation and you're asking them, tell me from your perspective, what went wrong here, or what happened here, or how did this scenario go, or talk me through that conversation. When you need more information, say more. And hopefully then they will be able to open up and give you the information that you need in order to make really good decisions. And then it's important as well to be able to talk through a solution, or to talk through what's going to happen next time, or talk through what the ramifications of this are going to be in these meetings, rather than just kind of cutting it short and then following it up with an email. It's really important to be able to emotionally invest in the conversation that is happening and make sure that everybody's on the same page and everything is really clear from this point onwards. So I gave the example before of, if it goes over 20 minutes, then you make a plan to reconvene. You don't just go, okay, well, that's the 20 minutes. So I'm going to go away and think about that. And then that's it. It's really important to be really clear about what happens next. So if you have a really great meeting, you get feedback back and forth. There's a great discussion. And then, and then the meeting wraps up. Finishing the meeting by saying, I really want to support you in taking this to the next level. I'm going to send you an email, which is a follow-up from today's conversation. If you have any questions or feedback, please get back to me. If you're going into, the meeting's gone over 20 minutes and you're going to reschedule for tomorrow, you say that in the meeting. You don't kind of leave it hanging. So they don't kind of leave going, well, I don't know what happens next. You make it really clear. Today's discussion has been great. I'd like some time to think about it. How about we catch up tomorrow at 4 o'clock here in my office and we can continue this conversation then. Making sure that the next step is always really clear. If you've given great feedback, then, you often have to tie that in a bow by saying, today has been really great. Continue the great work. I'm really proud of you. I'm watching you keep doing what you're doing, so that there is, an ending. So that, I love the saying tying in a bow, but that's exactly what you're doing. The present is wrapped. You're tying it in a bow. Ta-da! It's ready to go. So you're sending the person back out into the workforce and back into their role with that confidence that hopefully you've built within those performance review meetings or catch-ups, team catch-ups, whatever you want to call it. As a leader and a manager, it's so important that you step into these conversations, and it's like a muscle. It'll get stronger the more you work it. So you have to work it. You've got to keep working it. You've got to keep having the conversations. You've got to keep turning up. You've got to keep doing the work, and then it gets easier over time. But if you don't have any kind of structure in place right now, then start by implementing even just a yearly performance review at this point. Just start small. Doesn't have to be, I'm going to catch up with you every week at 4 o'clock on a Tuesday, but it can be, how about, in 3 months' time, we catch up and sit down and figure out, and have a discussion about how we're going and how we're both feeling. That's a really good place to start. So I encourage you, if you haven't already, when you've been listening to this, get out your diary, get out your calendar, write down what you're going to do. What's going to be your action step? Are you going to set some performance reviews up? Perhaps you were doing them before, but you haven't done them for a while. Set up a process, figure out what it's going to be for you and for your team, and then communicate it. Let everybody know. Give them lots of warning. Give them plenty of notice, and give them an understanding of what it's going to be. Who's going to be in the room, how long it's going to go for, what kind of questions are going to be asked. That will take everybody out of threat state and give them the opportunity to prepare if they would like, because I'm sure they're going to have things to say to you as well, and really help get everybody singing from the same song sheet and on the same page. We talk about this as well as more things about team culture and about getting everybody singing from the same song sheet when we do Simply Business Accelerator. And today's episode has been brought to you by the community and culture aspect of Simply Business Accelerator, which we are doing this November on the 5th and the 12th, 8:30 a.m. till 11:30 a.m., those 2 Friday mornings. I really hope you can join us. You can enroll now at simplystacymorgan.com. If you've enjoyed today's episode, then please share it with your business bestie. Share it with anybody that you know. Take a screenshot and stick it on your Insta story. I would love you to share it. That will help us spread the podcast far and wide. Your time is really valuable, and I appreciate you spending it with me. Be brave, have those brave conversations, and I will talk to you very soon.